Hi, my name is Tracy Phillips, and I want to tell you a little bit about my experience at the Recenter Houston. But before that, I'll tell you a little bit about my life before the Recenter. For over 20 years, I was in active addiction. I used to cope. I used to deal with things. I used to suppress my feelings. I didn't have any healthy coping strategies, and I used every day. By the time I was 33, I was a full-blown heroin addict, living in motels, living on the streets, living in my car with my then 3-year-old daughter and my husband. My other kids had gone to live with other family members. I didn't want anything else. I didn't know there was a better way. I didn't know there was a better life. I didn't know that sobriety was possible, that recovery was possible. June 1st, 2016, my husband died of a heroin overdose. And for about a month and a half after that, I tried to kill myself by overdosing, and it just, I couldn't, I wouldn't. So on July 19th, 2016, I reached my lowest point. I was hopeless. I was hurt. I was, I had, all my kids were taken away from me. My dad had thrown me out. None of my family members wanted to talk to me. Friends didn't want me, even on their couches. I had nowhere to go. So I went to rehab, and while I was in rehab, I met a couple of people who told me about the Recenter. And they told me that the Recenter used to be the men's center and that they now accepted women. And they told me it was a place that had a lot of great recovery here. So before I was being discharged from rehab, I called the Recenter. There were no beds available. I called the next day. There were no beds available. The third day I called, one of the assistant managers told me to go ahead and come in, that they would find a spot for me. And they did. And I was in the sick room for a couple of days until a bed opened up. And I'm so grateful for that, because had I just left rehab and not come to the Recenter, I don't know where I would be at today. The people that I've met here at the Recenter have been so instrumental in my recovery. One of the first days I was here, one of the managers talked to me and told me to find some people who were serious about the recovery. He called the winners, and he made some suggestions about those who those people might be, and I got connected with them. And they're still very, very important. They're my sober family. I love those guys. But had I not come to the Recenter, I don't know where I would be. I'm grateful that day, for some reason, the manager felt it in his heart to make a place for me. And when I got here, I found a sponsor right away. I started working the steps. The Recenter gave me a place to find myself. I found a place where I could find hope again, and find a recovery community a community of recovery that I was surrounded by. I didn't know that existed. I didn't know anything but being an addict. And while I was here, I worked at the front desk for a little while, and then I became one of the managers. And I slowly started reconnecting with my family. My kids started coming to see me. My dad would call me to come visit on the weekends. My sister allowed me back in her house. When they saw I was serious about my recovery and what this place was doing for me, I was beginning to become part of the family again. And I know that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have been here. And so I was here about 9 months, and during those 9 months, while I was building reconnecting with my family, and strengthening that relationship, after those 9 months, I went back home, and my dad let me live in his house. I have all 3 kids back with me. I've since moved out on my own, and I have all of my kids with me. My kids are doing so well. I have a job at Texana Center, which is the mental health authority in Fort Bend County, where I work as a recovery coach and mental health peer specialist. And I get to talk about my recovery, and I talk about this place all the time, and I remain grateful for the Recenter. My dad even is grateful. He says it all the time that he is so grateful that I came to this place. And I would recommend the Recenter if I were to recommend the Recenter to somebody, I would let them know that they would be surrounded by a community of recovery, a community where there's people that if you need help, if you're feeling hopeless, there's people here that want to help you, that are willing to help you. I would definitely tell them that they would find recovery here. And again, I just want to say how grateful I am for that manager that day for allowing me to come. I'm just grateful for the Recenter. It's been so instrumental in my recovery. And again, I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't come here.